the idea of using roll-ups. So we have snapshots, and then within each snapshot, there is hundreds, if it could be thousands of transactions that are rolled up into it. And then we notarize that on chain. So like that is zero knowledge roll-ups, basically. So we have hashed values of all the transactions. You can apply a compute function and you will see that nothing's changed. You'll get the same value. So you know that record is immutable. And that, just even that in ad tech is like transparency, right? It doesn't exist really.
People use cash to mix it up or do illegal transactions. In crypto, they do it too, but in crypto, it's not anonymous.
Yeah.
So, and if you talk about percentages, it's just way less, and you can just track it.
Yeah.
That's the downside of blockchain. Your privacy is just gone.
To a degree, yeah. I think it's a different kind of privacy, right? Because like your bank still knows where you send money to, and then someone does a credit check, and then they can see that if you're buying a house and you've been betting on Arsenal every weekend, like they're like, "Why are you using Sky Bet?" It's like, "Well, how do you know that?" It's like, "Well, because we can see what you're doing," and it's like that's even more like at least there's like the obfuscation of a wallet, just like an alphanumeric string, where it's like unless it's benputley.eth, like it's quite hard to tie it to exactly what I'm doing. Or if I've signed in with an email in my wallet, then sure, it's easy to tie those two things together. But that's no different to your device ID on your phone and signing in with a single sign-on on Google, right? Like that's one of the powers of why they've been so successful is because they're good at targeting.
And people just do not know how much of their privacy is gone already.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing is with blockchain is that it's just in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And like nobody reads terms and conditions.
Yeah, true, yeah.
So if you have an iPhone and you go into the App Store, you need to approve that, or any app you download.
Yeah.
Which is basically just saying, yeah, give me all data.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And with a blockchain, the good part is that you can actually use your own data. Or you can use your own value or any collateral that you have, and you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I think, in my opinion, that to some degree, governments should step in, like the whole Pomp.fun saga we've experienced the past few weeks, or exchanges doing illegal activities, or then yes, of course, someone needs to step in, but the markets are stepping in themselves.
Yeah.
And further, you shouldn't be having a case where, for instance, if you have a different sort of skin color, and you're not able to get a certain job, that's also something that's really bad. But it's the same for opportunities within blockchain or things that you want to do, which a bank is preventing you from. With blockchain, you can still do it. It creates a bunch of opportunities for people that are not having those in real life.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think one of the cool things about blockchain is that it doesn't necessarily matter which school you went to or university degree you have. It's like if you know something and you're willing to collaborate with other people, you get welcomed into a community, and then you can just like create a job for yourself. You know, like I think there's a chap in the UK called Cap, and he runs the super teams for Solana. He runs the UK super team, and they've gone from, it's really amazing to see, they've gone from like a space sporadically that they rented, and now they've got, and they're opening up a permanent space in Liverpool Street, so in the heart of the city of London.
That's pretty cool.
Opposite the Amazon office, you know, like, and like cool stuff's going to come out of that, you know, like there'll be some great developers, there'll be some great founders. There's, I was in the House of Commons last week, with Stand With Crypto, which is Coinbase's, I'm not sure exactly what you call it. It's not a charity per se, but it's the entity that's engaging with the government to help.
Foundation or so?
Maybe. It's big in America. Yeah. It's like in America, they managed to help get 220 pro-crypto politicians elected as part of the last government, which is obviously going to have its impact. the UK is now like, oh, America have done it, maybe we should too, as we tend to do. And there was this great company called Agridex that had been built on Solana that had been...
That's actually funny. We invested in that one.
Oh, did you? Nice, yeah.
Actually, last week I was on a Spaces with Henry Duckworth.
Yes, he was...
The founder.
Yeah, he was just after me on our little pitch that we did to the Dragons in the House of Commons. But I think that he did a lot of work with Superteam, you know, and like that's cool that you can just walk in there and be like, okay, I'm willing to learn about blockchain. These are my skills that I've got, and they won't turn you away unless you're an asshole. But then most places would turn you away, right? But that is cool. It provides an alternative route for people to like, okay, this is where I'm going to go, and this is how I'm going to do it, rather than just like A levels, university, graduate degree. It's like you can just plot your own path a bit more with crypto.
I think the only so in general, we do not care where you come from, who you are. If you're good at something, hell yeah, we hire you.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a lot of, actually some of our team members come from the Web2 space, wanted to jump over into the Web3 ecosystem. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, sure.
It's first year, but I mean, they like it a lot. But the only concern or thing that I still see, which I would favor having more female people in crypto.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
it's still a stigma around crypto, and it's also, I mean, if you go to conferences. There is also a nature surrounding men that depends on which conference you go to. But for instance, if you go to Token or the bigger ones, it's not too female friendly.
Yeah.
But I would like to have a little bit more diversity in that sense. But indeed, it doesn't matter if you're from anywhere in Pakistan, for instance. We can still have a job for you if that's necessary. It's all remote. You've got most of your staff in India seated. Actually, many exchanges don't have actual teams, and if they have teams, then their revenue is so much higher than a regular bank.
Yeah.
So it opens up doors, and I think that you mentioned Agridex, but there are so many RWA projects that are currently popping up with actual use case where the teams are still this small, and they are quickly expanding and hiring staff members from Web2.
Yeah, like Crypto Autos was one. They seem to be doing quite well. They had a very brightly coloured Lambo at Zebu Live a couple of months ago. But seem to be gathering quite a lot of speed. It's quite cool. I think it's...
they are Dutch, right?
I think so, yeah. It's interesting to see the various use cases, and I think that I've been listening to some of the stuff that Story Protocol have been talking about. Just raised an amazing round of cash. Good for them. The idea of like specific infrastructure as opposed to like general purpose infrastructure, you know, like, because that presents its own challenges when it's like, I say this a lot, but you can build anything on Ethereum. And then someone that perhaps is coming from Web 2 to Web 3, it's like, yeah, but what? And it's like, well, anything. And it like that, going from like, you can build anything to like understanding specifically what to build is like a big learning curve. So like our strategy has been like, we could have built anything, but we've chosen to like specifically build bringing ads on chain. But like,
that is difficult on its own.
That is difficult on its own. But I think what it does mean then is like, okay, we've got, because you can deploy any part of the ad serving application to our validators. So that might be a Web 2 business that wants to save money on their current centralized infrastructure, could deploy the storage of certain parts of the ad auction, or just notarize it on our ledger and then gain some efficiencies. And it's like, that's how our trajectory can be managed. You know, like there's a trajectory where we just sell ads, like Alkimi, just like, we sell them, people buy them, that's great, but that kind of sets your trajectory here. But like if you can become a platform which people can build their businesses on, and people will think of stuff that we've never thought of, and I'm like, that is so cool, just use all this infrastructure.
Almost open source. And
yeah, exactly. Just come and deploy it, because like our whole point is that like if you make capital more efficient, markets become more efficient, and
And also more boring, actually.
Yeah.
But in a good way.
Yeah, because it's that, and I mean, running ads isn't the most exciting thing, you know. We're not saving lives, but it funds the internet, which is an exciting thing, you know, because it's free for everyone, and that's kind of creaking a little bit. I can't remember where I was going with that point, but just that specific infrastructure. So like, there's more.
How, like, this is something that is also, it's all super difficult. Like, I got a lot of founders that say, I want to build a token. Yeah, for what purpose?
Yeah.
And then if you find an answer to that question, okay, now redefine that for being in business for 3 years.
Yeah.
What are going to be the flaws of the current system, and what do you need to... Like, that's something that we quite regularly saw from the previous cycles, that a token was designed, but had one use case or two, and then just limited.
Yeah.
How did you, like, go from being a Web2 founder, basically, or solution provider, into integrating the token? Because that's a whole new game.
I think it's been an iterative process. So the inspiration really came from Ethereum moving from proof of work to proof of stake. And then
the costs and stuff,
being able to, because that was the big problem, right? It's like ad inventory, there's lots of it, and really it's very, very low value per ad. Like, ads are sold in thousands. So, and then it's like $3 to $40 per thousand, but an individual ad isn't worth very much. So even the ability to notarize that on chain, if you're doing one ad at a time, it's a great way to go out of business in an afternoon, because like, you're getting 1,000th of a penny for an ad and it's costing you $1 to write it on EVM. It's like,
well done.
Call me in an hour and I'll give you some money because you're going to run out.
So why ETH then?
Well, it's our own layer 2.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it was, again, it's like the people that created Ethereum are much smarter than me, right? And like the idea of using roll-ups. So we have snapshots, and then within each snapshot there is hundreds, if could be thousands of transactions that are rolled up into it, and then we notarize that on chain. So like, that is zero knowledge roll-ups basically. So we have hashed values of all the transactions. You can apply a compute function and you will see that nothing's changed. You'll get the same value, so you know that record is immutable. And that, just even that in ad tech is like transparency, right? It doesn't exist really, because, and it's not really anyone's fault per se. It's just that like, centralized server here is creating a load of processes and hosting an ad auction that has to speak to centralized server here that repeats similar processes, that speaks to server here that repeats similar processes, so that they have reports to compare against each other. But what would be better is if each of those processes just like, hey, this is what I've done and I've notarized it on chain, and this is what I've done and I've notarized it on chain, this is what I've done and I've notarized it here as well. And it's like, hey, well, now everyone agrees of what happened, because there can be instances where it's like pretty arbitrarily decided, okay, we're happy to be within plus or minus 10% of each other in terms of what ads we think delivered and how much that costed. But that's quite a big variable.
Yeah.
Every month when you do your reconciliation period. And then you have to reconcile it. So like, you could spend 12 weeks a year just reconciling ad campaigns, and it's like, that is just solved by a ledger. So
yeah,
like,
sure.
it's 12 weeks back of your life, and that's like a boring 12 weeks where you're like, it kind of matches, and it's Friday now, so that's good enough. Not to trivialize the work they do, but, and then coupled with the fact that, okay, like that, if you've got different validators working in unison to notarize a ledger, you've then distributed the cost, because I don't have to run all the servers as Alkimi. People are willing to do that if there's an incentive mechanism, and the incentive mechanism is there's a ton of ads that are spent, a ton of ad dollars that are spent on chain, but like, obviously you use the internet. Like, have you ever been paid to use the internet? Not really, no. And like, this is now a way where there's all this value changing hands, and now you can, in running a validator, share some of that value, or you can pull some liquidity and share some of that value. And I think your individual data isn't worth that much money, because the incentive mechanism's wrong, right? So if you, let's say I wanted to earn $5 from watching ads online, I'd have to look at 5,000 display ads to get my $5. It's not good use of my time. Equally, it's no good for an advertiser because I've seen an ad for Coca-Cola 5,000 times now. And they're like, well, we could have had 5,000 people that saw that, but Ben sat there and refreshed his screen all day long to earn $5.
These models used to be there in Web2, right?
Pardon me?
These models used to be there.
Yeah.
Where you had to like click on a lot of emails or whatever, and you get like 10 cents per email or whatever.
Exactly. But it's just, it skews the way it performs, right? And that's the shame of it, because the cool thing about digital ads is that you can have a really tight attribution model. So I'm going to put $5 in and I'm going to get $7 of value out. Like you can't get that close if you put an ad outside there by the canal on a billboard. Like you can probably see that it has some value, but you don't know for sure. And
untrackable.
Yeah, you can't do it on TV and you can't do it on radio, but it does work, but you just don't know quite how much or how well it works. But with digital, you know that it works. You know that you've been able to put some dollars in here and that's driven 8 installs, or that has delivered a basket value of $7. Now, it's not perfect because it can over-index towards digital, because let's say there's an Adidas billboard out there with a pair of football boots. I see that and I'm like, I want those football boots. So I go onto Google and I'm like, Adidas football boots, click. Google gets attributed with that last click, but it was the billboard. And there's no, like, how you can't go from analog to digital like that unless I'm like, oh, by the way, it wasn't Google, it was
you need to go back for
I put it in my checkout. Any notes? It's like, it wasn't actually Google search. That maybe by this ad it was the billboard.
But it's the same with cookies.
Yeah.
I mean, if for instance, that used to be happening in the past, but if you were watching me on YouTube, and I say that you should be doing something or click on a link, while you did it a year ago with someone else, and you click on the link, I should be getting a sort of notification that someone has actually been using that link, but actually it goes all the way back to the one a year ago.
Yeah.
That's also quite annoying.
Exactly, and that's where, again, we're not here yet, but like, you could reasonably tokenize every ad that was on a page. So it could be like an NFT of some description.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get more and more used to connecting a wallet to do something online, whether that's check out, whether that's log into an account, whatever it is, it's more than likely, I think, that we'll start using wallets for that. So then when a wallet is connected and you have a unique identifier for an individual ad unit, and you say, okay, this wallet saw this, I'll use my Adidas football boots example again, an Adidas football boot, and then I go to Adidas and I buy the football boots with my wallet, or the money that's in my wallet. You can then say, okay, we know that 15 minutes ago, we saw this ad on whatever, GQ. Here you go, GQ, you get part of the basket. And you can start to just reward the publications that are driving that. And it might not be that it's just traditional media. It might be games in Telegram. It might be the new social like Lens Protocol or Farcaster that are also like using advertising, because ad tech really touches everything and funds a ton of stuff. You know, like Google's an ad tech company, Meta's an ad tech company. OpenAI looks like it might start to become an ad tech company because they all run advertising. And you get to this, we were talking about this earlier, but like your adoption curve starts to flatten out. And let's say you've got a really good VC that's helped you get there. They're like, hey guys, come on, we
need to
need some revenue. And it's like, well, subscriptions are flat again. And then you just like, Netflix have done it. They've got an ad funded model. Spotify have got an ad funded model, you know, because the subscriptions peak out. There's only so many people that want to do it. We kind of split up things that we need to do, and we just trust each other, and it's
also beautiful.
If you enjoyed that episode, there's many more on our YouTube channel, on our Spotify and Apple podcasts. So make sure you don't miss the next episode. Make sure you have your notifications turned on so you can hear the next great conversation we have with our next guest.